Hi, it's Victor here from Trendfolding Trading for Beginners. And in today's episode, I want to talk about the basic hardware equipment and software tools that I use to trade the stock market. Coming up next. Hi everybody, it's Victor here. Welcome back to another podcast. Basically today I want to talk about the setup that I use, software and hardware-wise, for trading the market. Basically, about a week or so ago, somebody, your name, Laura, reached out in UK to me on Facebook messaging, and basically we started chit chat about trading in general. And one of the things she would like to know a bit more about is what type of spread betting brokers I use and how to choose one. And I thought of, I give the information to her, but I thought this is a good idea. But also, I think I'd like to share that information, plus expanding a bit more so people know, basically what type of setup I use to actually trade the market, basically. So here's just my setup. A lot of people might have others ideas already, but these just the basic things that I use, and this including the how to select a broker, so to speak, as well. So I hope you'll find it useful. So first of the bat, as we are doing things online nowadays, trading online most of the time. So first things, of course, you need a computer, right? So the computer-wise, I personally think you can use any second-hand computer that you have, but there's a couple of things that you need to watch out. First of all is obviously is the actual chip itself. Okay, you really need like Pentium Core 5, those kind of level. Okay, I Core 5. You can afford a bit more. I Core 6, 7, those kind of thing. I Core 3 will do well as well, but it's a bit slow. The reason is nowadays software, just like any other software, especially Microsoft one, over time it just like getting more and more complex, and they store a lot more data information, and then if you have a slow, not good enough speed of a microprocessor on your computer or your laptop, it just slow everything down. So I personally always choose iCore 5, and I can afford it. iCore 7, and you can get quite good second-hand computers online nowadays. So you don't have to spend too much. Even if you have iCore 3 at home, not using it much again, fine, you can use it, providing you have next bit is basically the RAM. The RAM nowadays, you can get computers with 4 gigabytes, but I think that's definitely as an entry level minimum is not useful enough, good enough for trading online. Basically, again, just like software, like I said before by Microsoft, all the software nowadays do a lot of more efficient use of its software setup and so forth. So it takes a lot of memory. So it's just fast interaction with the user. So the more faster it is and quick response to you it is, the more RAM it uses. That's from my understanding anyway. So 8 gigabyte RAM is a bit it's really basic. And basically also you need if possible the computer can expand that to minimum to double that with 16 gig or maybe up to 32 gig as well. And that's just my own opinion, own setup. I use quite a few of computers myself for a normal day-to-day job of I'm software designer, software consultant, so I use that a lot. So I know the ins and outs of what I really need. But for trading, you really need something not very fast. I mean, if so long as you're happy with the speed, but be more future proofing, you need to have a bit more RAM and have a better microprocessor. Next bit is obviously the disk space. That one, I'm not particular fussed about it. 300 gigabytes nowadays is quite normal, those kind of things, so you can use that. And even if that is not big enough for you, you can just buy external disk drive. Nowadays, most laptop computer have a Wi-Fi USB 3 in a faster port, and basically just plug into it and then off you go. Next is obviously your laptop computer need to have the Wi-Fi. It's quite standard. So connectivity wise, just the usual display port, USB, those kind of stuff. But I would recommend, if possible, have the high definition HDMI connectivity or display port. Reason be just for connecting monitors, basically computer monitors, not TV. You can use TV, but I just feel that TV is not really built for prolonged time of looking at it with your eyes, and the monitor is much better. And nowadays you can buy second-hand monitors, quite cheaply as well. I normally have my monitor is 27-inch myself. I use it at home. On my laptop is about 15-inch plus, but some people prefer a smaller screen. That's just preference really. But basically for me, I do my trade mostly using a laptop, so I prefer to look at the charts quite often. In the evening, depends on where I actually do the work after I get my children to bed, kind of thing. It could be in a sitting room, could be in a bedroom, or it could be a study room. So I like the mobility with the laptop, and also if I go to work, I don't have to go to a foreign place because of work requirement. In a hotel, I can have my laptop and do my work as well. So I prefer laptop. 15-inch for me as a display is the minimum. The other thing about the laptop is the battery life. Depends on which model. I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I used a lot of Dell before. Dell seems to be a very good computer, but after about 12 or 18 months or so, the battery slowly disintegrate and not holding charge as well, and you have to buy a new one. That's just my own experience. So I would basically, if you go for Dell, that's fine. Just be careful that you might have to replace the battery after about 18 months or so. And also the fan as well. The fan just heats up. The computer is so heated up and the fan keep on coming on, so sometimes it can be quite noisy. But the latest displays, the solid state technology, basically you have less of that issue, and then the fan should be quieter as well. So that is on the hardware. And next, of course, you have your computer is useless without connectivity, isn't it? So for me, this one is the internet. So for me, I have at home, and also when I'm out and about, I have basically a mobile phone, which have a lot of data in it. So let's talk about at home setup. Basically, you have I have cable, okay, and basically I also live in places just have normal, we call it copper wire connection, and basically called twist to pair. And nowadays in UK, I mean the core telephone network in UK is all done more or less by cable or fiber optics, so it's quite fast, but only the last mile, the last bit connecting to home could still be using the copper wire, so it's a bit slower. Basically, I have that as an internet connection, as well as have fiber optics. I normally just go for whatever gigabytes that they or megabytes download that they allowed, the fastest possible. But I keep the price down to about like maybe £30 a month, and that normally give you like 25 or 30 gig. About 30 megabytes of download speed, kind of thing. So that's good enough for me. And the other thing is, when you select a cable company, make sure there's no limit to download, kind of thing. Because some company offers unlimited download, but after a certain amount, then the services slows down a bit. That kind of thing. So I normally don't go for that. I go for one that actually give me the connection with good bandwidth, and then there's no download limit. The other thing I talk about is mobile phone. So nowadays, all of us have one form or another, an iPhone or Android phone, and the services, I mean, in whatever country you're in, is data is quite cheap. In India it's very cheap. In UK, I think myself, I have Vodafone, and I use SIM only. I basically just use a old phone that I have, and I don't normally buy a new phone every 2 years or something when my contract runs out, and I basically use my old Huawei P20 instead of P30 that my wife have, and I just have a nice SIM into put the SIM only SIM in there with 100 gig of data. I hardly finish that every month. I use it more like 20, 30. My children use it, take my phone to watch YouTube videos, that kind of stuff. But I use that mobile phone as a backup. So if my cable doesn't work, or if I go to take my laptop, when I'm in hotel, the connection is bad, not going properly, then I just use basically my my mobile phone as connectivity. Now for that connectivity, we call it the hotspot on the mobile phone. Within UK is all right. There might be some limitation, depends on your the operator will give you the provider mobile phone connection, they will give you a top line limit of how much hotspot data you're allowed, that kind of thing. But using the phone for connectivity is only a backup, basically. So when I'm out and about, I use that. And at home, I always use the cable. But I always have two form of connection. Why? I learned that from my own mistakes. Sometimes if you, especially me, I have to get all the kids go to bed first, talk to my wife a bit, get my stuff they were written down. Then I go in to do my work, and sometimes I do run over, like I do 11 and finish like 12 something. Cable company have some problem in that, it's nothing wrong with it, just how they work. About 11, 12 o'clock at night, they do maintenance run. Sometimes they do switches, switch off and update and that kind of thing, and the network just suddenly dies and slow down, and I don't want those problems. So when that happens, which is inevitable, and I've changed a number of cable company before, and still have similar issue, because it depends on some do like 2 a.m. in the morning, some do like 12 or something, so it really depends, but they do some maintenance sometimes. So when that connection's dead, whatever is happened to it, or maybe there's a local power cut, you still got your mobile phone to basically have a connectivity to the server, to basically place a trade for next day, or you can do it next day in the morning. But also when you're doing analysis, you might want to download files from the internet and collect data, kind of thing. So that's what I use for basically the mobile phone as a backup. Personally, on the mobile phone, I just use Android. I use iPhone before, but I prefer Android because I don't being limited to use the iPhone ecosystems and pay a lot of money for it. I personally prefer choices. Android seems to have a lot more choices doing things in allow me to do so. That's pretty good. So on the cable, I basically just spent about 30 quid on a mobile phone with SIM only, just the SIM itself without handset. I mean, the 100 gig data I paid for the phone about 30 quid, and that's unlimited phone call, unlimited data, unlimited text as well. So it's pretty good. But there's a lot more simple SIM only versions of tariffs out there. I mean, something's cheaper, I think, and this depends on the download speed and stuff. So it's just up to you which one do you want. Next, after you have got your computer, your internet, all that set up, obviously still, if you're at home, you probably don't really want to just look at the laptop screen, which is my one is about just over 15-inch. You might want to like a monitor. So monitor normally on a laptop you can connect to nowadays more or less HDMI. In the older version of the laptop, you might have VGA video output, those kind of thing, and the newer version may probably support both HDMI and DisplayPort. So it's up to you what type of laptop you have, and then you use that connectivity. I normally use the connect at home, my laptop to a monitor, and those are like I said 27-inch, and I've got two monitor just in case if my one of my monitor goes down, I got that backup. So effectively, if I have my full setup on my desk, I could have potentially the laptop 15-inch display. I got two 27-inch as well. So but I normally just switch one off because I use the other one as a backup. So if one screen burn or whatever, I got something as a backup, so I got another screen. So normally I just come home, I do my analysis at night, I use my laptop screen plus the 27-inch and use the normal HDMI connection. But some newer computers support DisplayPort as well, so that's useful. Some older version of computer might not have HDMI or DisplayPort, but you can extend to that, either use VGA or you don't have that, use USB. I think there's some connectivity dongle that you can buy from eBay that connect USB 2, USB 3 to a monitor. So there are choices out there. So after that, basically is you got a hardware now. The computer is there. You can actually use it. And for me, basically, I use next is the charting software. The software I use, but I don't go to like online free charts to do my charts. I prefer to have my own charts on my computer because I can download the data. I am also, because of my job, that day job, I'm a software consultant, and I can program things. So I just program my rules and system into some files, and I basically take the data that and export from my charting software into a directory on my computer, and I just use my software to pick up those files. Basically, just spreadsheet, that kind of XLS extension, and then pick up the data and read the inside, and then give me my result. That's what I do, so to reduce my time, that sort of thing. So that is a charting software that I use. Is called ShareScope, and I took the Gold version, which is the cheapest. I think it's around 20 or 30 quid nowadays, and it provides end-of-day data. And it has professional as well as the plus level, but those give you more like delayed, 5-minute charts, 10 minutes chart, those kind of thing. But that's suited, in my own opinion, more suited for maybe, people doing day trading, that kind of thing. The professional version, I think, give you like, no delay or maybe 1 minute delay chart, those kind of thing. But for me, being a busy guy during daytime with full-time job plus 4 kids, all I need really to make my analysis decisions and stuff is just end-of-day data. So that's a cheaper version. I use ShareScope Go in UK, and obviously I have a backup, just like my laptop, computers, all sorts of things, and internet connection. So I also use website charting software as a backup if my computer dies or something. So I use TradingView. Take a bit of time to learn, but it's quite simple to use. It's not too bad. So I have that as well. So I use TradingView sometimes as a backup. That is what I use. Next is obviously I write things down. So I use Notepad, which is come from the computer. If the computer dies and I need to trade, I use my phone as a backup. And the phone, the other things that I need to mention is the apps. You can install apps to trade, which I'm going to talk a bit more on there. So that's useful as well with the mobile phone. That's another reason why I have the mobile phone. So and after I've done the chart and stuff, I write things down. I said, sometimes computers die, then I just use a notepad, paper pad, or notebook, whatever you have, write things down. So I switch between using a notepad from the computer or writing things, but I slowly, at the moment, I try to write things down myself with hand, because I found more often than not, whatever I write down seems to stick in my mind better. So when I keep track of my trade and the reason why I trade and so forth, it's useful to type it in. I don't have time, but most of the time I would like to write it down. So at the moment I'm in two stream. So sometimes I write it in computer, but sometimes I also write on the book, but on a notebook. But now I'm more moving this year towards just writing things down on a notebook, because it's easy for me to write things sometimes. I just feel it stick to my head better. That's just personal preference. Okay, and obviously tracking of your shares and stuff, I use a spreadsheet, and that's on the computer, of course. Of course, you can also write it down in a notebook, but I use a spreadsheet to actually write things down. And I use just normal Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, which is more or less, you can get a free version running on a laptop quite easily. And the other thing is, if you don't want to pay the license fee for the Microsoft products, you can use something called Open Office software, and that's basically free. You can read Word document, Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint, those kind of thing, and it's open source and it's freely available. And that's what I use. But the other thing I found more useful as well is I have a Google account, and most people have it nowadays. And Google account give you 15 gig of data for your Google Mail and stuff, and you can basically use that, access that 15 gig of data, which is free from Google, with Google Drive installed on your laptop. Okay, and it's also again free. And Google you used Google before. Google has a spreadsheet and documents and stuff, and the good thing is it is stored in the cloud, so it's stored online. So your spreadsheet, I'm trying between using this Excel spreadsheet and then moving onto online. So what I basically do is, at home when I'm not traveling overseas or around the UK for jobs or whatever, I will basically use my laptop at home and just keep the spreadsheet there. But if I know I need to go travel or holiday or something, then I put the same spreadsheet into Google Drive, and then I can access anywhere in the world. So I can access in any hotel so long there's Wi-Fi connection. So that's what I use. So this next bit basically is the bit that basically prompt this podcast about stockbroker broker that I use. Basically, at the moment I use broker to do spread betting in UK because spread betting is tax free at the moment. So I have also used CFDs, but I found it a bit tedious to use. I also have ISA as well, and basically it's individual saving account which allow you to trade shares. That is tax free at the moment, so it's increasing every year. I think it's about 10 or 12k a year or something for UK now, so it's quite good. So I basically put some money away every month, and then just feed that account. I have my pension and stuff as well. That's usual. So my personal preference, I personally use is LCG for spread betting and IG Index spread betting as well. I have used SpreadX. I have used TD Waterhouse, CD Brokers, SpreadX as well, which is also offer spot betting. But I found LCG and IG Index better. LCG for me is basically it offer cheap spread. Basically, the spread is quite tight, and also every point I go in, I can bet as low as 10p, and that's what I do. And but IG Index offer a lot more different choices like forex and access to some of the US stock as well. So and also just like my internet, I always have two account basically as a backup. If LCG goes down on the website or the apps, then IG Index, I will use IG Index. Likewise, IG Index is down, I have LCG. I haven't come across that both of them down at the same time, so I use one or the other. Just depends on which connectivity is up. But if both are up, I mainly use LCG because the margin requirement is lower, and it's allow me to go as low as 10p per point, which is very useful, especially for a new starter, or you go into a share or commodity you never done before. You want to try it out, because every share and commodities or whatever or index, I personally feel that there's some people who trade specifically for that particular market, and their mentality, the way they play, the way they trade it comes out in the trading. So some could be very volatile, others can be very boring and nothing much happening. So they seem to have some sort of characters, and I think that characters depends on the whole group of people which trade actively on that particular market. And I like to initially start off with very low points, bet per pawn, so pose the big risk as little as I can, and then basically just trade that particular market until I'm comfortable with it. I still use the same trend following system, but I personally have done analysis before. Some market, if you do trend following, don't seem to trend well, because it's just for that past data I have seems to be getting a lot of sideways trend up and down and down. It seems to get taken out often and not making real money over long term. But others really trend really well, like Hong Kong index or Dow Jones, that kind of thing. So it really depends on which index I use. It gives you that flexibility. However, I basically use the LCG and IG index myself. So that's two things. Also, the other things I use it is because of the it has quite good apps that you can download from Play Store on Androids, and then it's quite useful. It's very simple to use, and that's what I use for the app for. Basically, when I finish my analysis in the evening, I basically if I'm at home, I just open my the website for these two LCG or IG index, and basically place my trade basically at the market, and just wait for the next morning to open up, and then it will just automatically open the trade or close my trade for me. And if I'm traveling, I use the apps version on my phone, so I can do that very quickly. And also sometimes I do, it's a bad habit, I try to limit that, is I also look into the market, just see how I be doing once, maybe twice a day, mostly in the lunchtime. But that's something that I try to cut down because I personally feel looking at the trade, what is actually happening when the trades actually work in mid-flight, so to speak, when the market is open, it sort of hypnotize me, make me want to have the urge to try to trade. So I try to stop myself. I just want a quick check sometime, but then I mainly use the internet connection at night, and analysis at night to check my charts, check my position and so forth at night, which is basically I found it's better because it take all the emotion out of it. I can just coolly analyze the data and the data and then make my decision there, rather than being hypnotized to the trade for the share. Let's say Apple go up suddenly and suddenly go down, and it's a roller coaster ride, make your emotion go up and down all the time, which is not good. And that's what I try to avoid. But I use the apps version on the phone to basically as a backup. I mean, why do I also select this tool? Is basically personally I feel the other brokers, nothing against them. It's just that I found as when there's problem, LCG and IG index seems to get back to you relatively quickly. When there's gaps, when there's issues, gaps open or gap down, when you ask them for data, they tell you exactly what is actually happening. Others, brokers I used before, when the price it gaps up, let's say gaps up 100 points or 50 points or something big, and then when you look at your trade, you know that particular, let's say British pounds against US dollar or something, it fluctuates quite a bit, so you have a bigger stop loss, and somehow you find that. I mean, from the charts provided by a stockbroker or SpecBetter actually shows you what is the high and the low of the day on the chart on the website. Actually, still much smaller than your stop loss level. Sometimes I've questioned about them, asked for the information, and I found that those brokers I don't use because they basically tell me, even though I haven't touched your stop loss, but they were doing some analysis in the background, and basically they're adamant that that's how it is, and even though it's still got a little bit gap, maybe a couple of pennies or a couple of points, they just still touch it and basically close out your trade, and some of those brokers just would not refund my money, and I found IG index and LCG have less of that problem. That's why I use it. And the other things I also use is one of my main criteria for selecting a broker is two things. Basically, I do not want cold call. Okay, I do not want them to call me to say we got this service, blah blah blah, and we like to try this, try to sell me something. I just want cool, simple, quick execution. So I use these two stockbroker. The other things for me is very important is now I think it's more on the norm in UK, but in the back in years ago, it used to take me a long time to get my money out. So they very quickly can take money from your card. But when you ask them for money back, it takes 5 days, some even take 10 days. Now it's more or less industrial standards 3 days or so forth. But because of that, I always go for bigger one. First of all, they don't go bust. Hopefully they don't. And then when they send you money, especially a bigger one, they got a bigger, better customer service. They send your money back very quickly. So like IG index and LCG, even though they say, it may take 2 to 3 days. Sometimes I get my money back in 1 or 2 days. That's good for me. So that is very important for me anyway. Because if you want to move your account or take money out, whatever other reason from your account, you want access to your money quickly. You don't want to wait, and so forth. Okay, so that is the general setup I use. Of course, once you have your computer, your internet connection, your charting software all sorted out, of course you need your strategy. That strategy I'm not going to talk about here, but I just use trend following. You might have a different strategy. I would assume you have a strategy. So this is basic setup, okay, on the hardware and software side. So you need your own strategy on top. And people also ask me before, how much should I start? At the start, if you're a new beginner, I say risk as little as you can, but you need to put some meaningful money on the side here to spread bet or to trade. I would say minimum you put £1,000 on. Really minimum maybe 500 you want to, but I would say a bit more comfortably £1,000, and you don't trade more than 3 stock maybe, or 3 commodities or something. Main reason is the first year is like a training time. You really don't want to put too much money on at the start. Also, you need to test whatever broker you're using something until you really trust them. You don't put a lot of money onto them. So I started with about £1,000 worth I would recommend, and basically just look at 3 instruments in the sense, maybe an index like Dow Jones, and metal, commodity, gold, and then another commodity, say oil or something, or maybe a forex, like British pounds against US dollars, or US dollar against Japanese yen, those kind of things, up to you. And basically that first year, I would say minimum 6 months, is testing the stockbroker, how good it is, how you feel about the broker's website and apps and stuff, but also like how much you say you make some money, you want to take the money out, test them, okay, and you're at least happy with it. But mainly for me is first year, don't expect to make a lot of money, or you'll be good to even break even, okay, because your strategy, I don't know what strategy you use, it probably you need to take your time to learn it. Okay, as a new starter, somebody, you might have bought it from someone, or you got it from the internet, or somebody of your friends using it, but those are somebody else's system. You really need to basically learn what that system is. If it's a black box you buy from somebody else, it's very difficult, especially if you spend quite a lot of money to buy this, out of box software, and they basically just tell you when to buy, when to sell, that kind of thing. I normally don't go for that, because I would like to know what's underneath the bonnet, so I know what I'm trading. That's just my personal opinion. But assuming you got a system, you still need to have time to trade with it, and then you are at least happy with it, because just like teachers, they're students and they're students. Some student takes on particular type of teachers very well. Other type of student takes the same teacher, take it quite badly. So it gives and gives and takes a bit. You might have a system, and you need also have the right mentality, the personal makeup to actually trade that particular trade. So like trend following, you need to be patient, or you can at least learn to be patient, that kind of thing. But if you want something quickly, well, that's trend following, is not really for you. But that's just strategy wise, okay. But start off with 1K is a good small starting point. Basically just go in and test it out. And I don't recommend more than 3 instruments, because you want to put some money aside just in case lose out, you can go back in again, and that kind of thing. Also, if like I use spread betting, you need the margin requirement as well to cover those margins. So, and you can basically spread betting start as little as 10p kind of thing per pawn, that kind of stuff, and you can just put it all on Apple or something, up to you, or put it all on just one, let's say USD against the Canadian dollar, those kind of thing, and just watching. The first year is learning about how things works, and you're happy with things, and you actually hopefully if your strategy have a positive edge, which means when you do hundreds of times of trades, it gives you a positive result. So at the end of the year, hopefully you have done get some money, but so to speak. So £1,000 you probably get £1,000 and plus £1 on top, or £100 on top, or £20 on top. Really depends on your system you use, and also how the market is at the time. But basically that's what I recommend. There's also people talk about, should I use demo account and things. I think this is just my general opinion, okay. Demo account is a bit funny. I have a funny feeling of those. When I tried demo accounts in some stockbroker, it seems to work pretty well, okay. And when I put actual money into the market, it doesn't work well. Now, people might say it's because of my emotion. I got real money on the market, and that basically causes me to not do stupid thing because my emotion playing out and those kind of thing. That may be very true, but also the other thing is that's back to the broker as well. Some broker out there, as far as I understand and heard about this, demo account, they have certain algorithm. They make things easy for you. So whatever strategy you use, they make it look like you're always winning. That's good. But then that algorithm is basically for demo account. In real life, when you go into real live trading account, it doesn't seem to work that way. So people basically lose quite a lot of money. So there are people who are mucking around and playing around on the demo data and how the algorithm's working on demo account. So just watch out on that one. So I mean, for me, main problem for me is basically the emotion of using funny money, which is, I say, it's in a demo account, because it's not real. It's not basically money from your pocket, and you actually, when you transition into the real market, you basically your emotion comes in, especially we got a lot more money on the line to risking it, and then you will basically do funny things. These are human emotion, which I talk about much on my podcast, and I think that's the main cause of discrepancy between demo account and to actual live account. Demo account is very good. We're doing just checking your data, testing your data. But if you have a charting software, you can basically run that, trading view. They're quite good. You can actually use some of those features to do back testing or some stuff like that. There's some software out there that actually do back testing for you, so you can actually do that instead of using a stockbroker demo account to do your back testing for you. Okay, that's just my own personal opinion. Okay, so hopefully this give you a bit of taste what you need, but I also have some extra optional things that you might like to have, but this is just for me basically. So first of all, monitor I used at home 27-inch is quite good. Some people might use 32-inch, really depends on you. Okay, and also the internet connection. It's up to you how fast you want. You might want to pay a lot more or a lot less. It's up to you. The charting software, again, it's up to yourself which one you use. Some might cost more, some might cost less. I use ShareScope because for me it's about the right price, and I get the data is quite decent. Some people might not even want to pay for that. There is historic data online, is free, but I prefer to pay for one because the people go out there in those company actually go out there, put the gather data together, and it's quite extensive and it's quite useful, and they do some back checking and stuff as well. So I don't have to worry about that with the data coming every end of day when I do my analysis. So it's useful. The other thing I have, which I also mentioned about before, is use Audible. Now I recommend some books before. Some books are only available in print format, but a lot of it nowadays is also on Kindle and Audible, and I have Audible myself, and I joined the subscription. I think at the moment I pay $7.99 per month, which amount give me 1 credit, and I can buy any books on Audible. And it's part of Amazon. So if the Audible say the books cost you 40 quid, I just use my 1 credit. So it's essentially I'm just paying for 8 quid. That's quite useful. And the Audible version, good things is you can, like I said before, when I'm driving, I actually listen to those. And remember, every day we more or less, average guy or girls go to work driving, maybe up to an hour, or go to the tube or cycling, whatever, go to work, and that's each way is 1 hour. So you spend like 2 hours per day, 10 hours a week, okay? And then that's like 40 hours a month, that kind of thing. And why waste them? I mean, that's more or less, you do that for 12 months, that's quite a lot of hours. It's more or less a whole year, like a university degree kind of year. Use that to basically learn about trading, whatever style you use. Get some books and read on those, but mainly I would say get more emphasis on trading psychology, okay? Not just from transferring, but other people as well, and get your mindset right. Okay, so I call this the mind feed, so you can basically, put positive stuff into your mind, talking about things that you like to do. Okay, that's very, very useful. But the other things also, I buy books as well. Nowadays it's quite useful with Amazon, with Kindle version of the books. I'm in 2 minds with Kindle version, so buying the books itself. Sometimes if I can buy it, I buy from Amazon. If not, I go on eBay and search for them. I prefer physical books sometimes as well, because when I read them, I write things down on the side, so it's quite useful. But obviously you cannot really bring with you if you say you go on holiday and you want to listen to some nice trading psychology books. So Audible version is useful, as well as Kindle. The problem with Kindle version is you cannot write things on the side or not that easily anyway, and so. I use all 3 formats. Basically, up to you, personal opinion format. What you want, but I definitely recommend use Audible, pay subscription. 8 quid for buying a book, once a book every month. That's useful. I mean, if you think about it, if you can read, 1 book a month, that's 12 book a year. That's quite useful for you on trading, in your particular field. Then next year, or you can spend more time on trading psychology. And then later on, if you want to expand a bit more, about meditation, that kind of thing, how your mindset works as well. The other thing I would recommend is reading about David Lipton, those kind of things, because it's useful for how your mind's work can be, how you can we train your mind to be have a better relationship with money, those kind of thing. We being trader, a lot of time one of our main problem is we sabotage ourselves. Why? Because we've been taking bad programming into our head. And some of the books that David Lipton talks about, Bruce Lipton talks about, very good. So Bruce Lipton, do have a look at those books. And that is basically the end of my podcast for this week, and I hope you found it useful, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.